French onion soup, Bashir tells a your mother joke, and we get a Jake and Nog hug. Hello and welcome to The Seventh Rule with Cirroc, Lofton. My name is Ryan T. Husk, and today we are reviewing Season 2, Episode 3 of Deep Space Nine, The Siege. How you doing, Cirroc?
Doing well.
Did you
lot of stuff in that episode.
Yeah. Did you get the 3 references, or should we touch on those?
The French onion soup. I'm trying to get my head around that. Where was that?
Stay tuned for that, I guess.
I guess so.
So, first, we want to tell very quickly that we've relaunched our Patreon page, so please check that out. Just go to Patreon and look up The Seventh Rule, or go to patreon.com/The Seventh Rule, 7th rule, not spelled out. And also, a quick shout out to Mr. Cirroc Lofton, because I know, because we had a couple of our fans yesterday and today kind of nudge us about something that they've seen you on a little show called Days of Our Lives.
Oh, yeah, is that right? So it's finally made its way out.
Yep. And they were asking, they said, is that Cirroc? They're like, it kind of looks like him. It kind of sounds like him. And I checked out the video, and I know you mentioned that you were on Days of Our Lives. We still haven't worked together on the same day yet, but we will. And I saw the video, at least the clip that they sent, Kat Cuomo sent. And Cirroc, that's some damn fine acting, dude. Good job.
Well, all right. Well, thank you.
On your part, that is.
Oh, well, thank you. It's fun to get back out there and do it. Interestingly enough, they just announced that they fired the entire cast of Days of Our Lives.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't even hear that.
Oh yeah, that's the breaking news. The entire cast of the show got fired, and people are speculating on what that means. But they didn't cancel the show; they just fired the entire cast, which is maybe a negotiating tactic or something. But I thought it was interesting.
Wow!
I got everybody fired. That's how bad so bad it was.
Because they're like, how come you guys can't act as good as this guy?
Yeah, sure. That's exactly what happened.
No,
yeah, that's the breaking news. I'm surprised you haven't heard about it.
I hadn't heard about it. I hope I still get to work on the show, but whatever. Here's the point, Cirroc, is that, and I'm going to go check that out when we're done recording, by the way.
Yeah.
Here's the point is many Star Trek and sci-fi actors, especially Star Trek actors, find it very hard to get work and to kind of redefine themselves. You know, musicians can do it from album to album. They kind of redefine themselves and start over and start something new and fresh. But for actors, it's tough because we get pigeonholed. You know, if you get a famous role like Star Trek actors do, such as yourself, it's hard to branch out. Character actors or actors with makeup on, like Jeffrey Combs, for example, or Renee, they can keep doing stuff because they had the makeup covering themselves up. But a lot of actors find it very hard to do work afterwards because that's it. Sorry, you're Counselor Troy. Nothing else we can do about it. Sorry, you're, Jadzia Dax. But the character you played was like a prison guard, right?
Yeah, it was a prison guard. Yeah.
You were great, man. You even had like a little twang in there, dude. It was awesome.
Oh yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Glad that people liked it. It was fun to be working. It is fun to work, and it is a challenge to reinvent yourself as an actor.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a challenge especially coming off of Star Trek. I think Star Trek in particular, or science fiction maybe, but Star Trek has its own stigmatism attached to the actors. So it's difficult to be anything but. I mean, William Shatner has done hundreds of things since his role in the 60s and in the movies.
Mm-hmm.
But that's going to be what he's going to be recognized as no matter what.
Forever, yeah.
Yeah. So it's one of those type of things. It was funny in this episode because I got to see a chance to reunite with Aron It was a moment to relive
Yeah.
in this particular episode.
Well, let's talk about it. Besides the
Yeah.
fact that now you're a tough prison guard, people don't know at home that Cirroc, Cirroc's actually 6'13". And so when he was playing that role, he was actually intimidating. It was really cool. But yeah, let's talk about the episode. It's called The Siege, and it's the third and final part of that 3-episode arc to start the second season.
Yeah.
Kind of like a hint of things to come with the serialized series. And I liked it a lot. What do you think?
Yeah, this episode had a lot of things in it. I didn't really find it dull at all. There was just constant movement. The pace was good. The tempo was good.
It's funny how you sound surprised. I didn't find it dull at all.
No, because I mean there are some episodes that are slower than others. Even the last episode wasn't as good as this one, in my opinion. That was when they were starting to, I was complaining about the theatrics of the opening scene with the last episode, and I didn't really like the staging of it.
Yeah.
But with this one, it kind of opened off in the same way in which it was like a monologue or dialogue. This opening scene with Sisko talking to everybody about having to evacuate and the choice that they have to make. But I enjoyed the scene. I enjoyed the tiny little drops here and there, the ramen pork exchange about selling seats. I would never sell my seat unless the price was right.
Is there a right price though? I don't know, man.
No, it was hilarious, and there were so many little drops there, and small moments that I felt were really good in between the cast.
Yeah, there was a lot of that. Let's talk about that. I think that basically these 3 episodes were a 2-hour movie, right?
Yeah.
Kind of reminiscent of the Next Generation movie Insurrection, which after watching it, I just thought this was just like a 2 or 3 part episode. It really didn't feel like much of a movie, whereas this one was maybe even a little bit more so than Insurrection could have been just a movie. And this 3rd episode was almost just like a 3rd act, where everything's been set up. Now it's just all action. It's all cool moments and action. And it's kind of like the payoff. And it kind of starts off with, how like at the beginning where everybody's volunteering to stay, saying like, oh, well, I better stay behind to pack up my medical supplies. That was a very Star Trek, tongue-in-cheek thing. It's been done like 3 or 4 or 5 times in every single Star Trek series. So it's cool to see Deep Space Nine spin on that, and it's always a fun time.
Right. To pull a page out of the let's say blueprint of setting up these scenes. This is the moment where we come together. We either stand and fight or we run away. That kick-ass rile them all up moment.
Where the captain says like, oh, I'm going against the rules, who's coming with me? And they all say, well, I guess I could, all that tongue-in-cheek banter I love so much.
You're too heavy to pack all my medical equipment.
And then we get the Jake and Nog hug. I think that's what you're talking about with the reunion, right?
Yeah, it was just great to see that because it felt like we were genuinely kind of going to miss each other. And I felt like that was almost the strongest bond of a revelation of the bond that we had, us exposing that, we would miss each other. We really felt this way about each other. And more so even for Nog's character, because I feel like he reveals that, he's saddened by the separation.
He's got separation anxiety already, huh?
Well, yeah, and it was funny. They said the Rio Grande and the Ganges; those were the 2 escape ships that we were on.
Was it? That's rivers in Brazil and India.
Exactly. So I thought that was interesting that they named those ships after that. But there was a moment where he says "human," and I get all serious. Cut it out, man. Don't play with me right now. This is a serious. We're about to not see each other for a long time. Give me a hug. See you later. and that was a good moment. It was a special moment.
Yeah, and I think it kind of validated that relationship really more so than anything in the first season. It might not have worked in the first season because they had to build up that relationship. But now it's been properly built up to where people can be sad that, oh no, Jake and Nog, the two friends, aren't going to see each other. I think more so than any of the other relationships, just because, these kids aren't soldiers. They're kids. They're having fun. They each have one friend, and now they're not going to see their friend.
Yeah.
Not to mention that your dad is just like, I know you don't have a mom, but see ya. Good luck out there.
Yeah. Good luck out
there.
there in that refugee camp you'll be in.
Yeah.
And there was also a moment where it was like Jake says he's been bouncing around his whole life. He kind of reveals that he doesn't like having an unstable life, and he's highlighting like, look, this is just further evidence of how unstable my life has been, and now I have to say bye to my friend that I've gotten to know, and I've come to like this place a little bit.
You know what I want to see? I want to see all the cool Star Trek nerds out there do a fan fiction episode about the 2 weeks that Jake was gone. Just where'd he go? What happened? What friends did he make? Did he get that writing bug? Did he meet a cool, cute little Bolian girl? What happened?
Yeah, where was he? Was he staying with his grandpa? Did he go stay with his grandpa or?
Oh, that
I don't know.
Might have been it.
But it was interesting because Nog says, well, I think that's where they're taking the families of Starfleet. I guess, we're both going to separate locations.
Yeah.
And then, the foreshadow there is that, eventually Nog would be part of the Starfleet. So I thought that picked up on that little line right there.
See, but you weren't, and I looked at that scene closely, and you weren't a family. You were just a 14 or 15-year-old kid. And I was watching when you went into the shuttlecraft to see if like somebody would put their arm around you and say, it's your godfather or your aunt or something like that, and say, come, you're staying with us for. Nope, just a bunch of families, and then some teenage boy just sitting by himself going, I guess I'll just go sleep in a tent on an asteroid for a couple of weeks. If my dad dies, I guess just make sure I'm well fed. That's it.
Yeah. And then, we saw baby Hannah, in that scene with the Keikos.
Yes.
The O'Briens. Yeah, and that was so great just to see just how little she was being carried by Column in that scene.
Yeah. Well, she's still kind of little.
Yeah, but it was just great.
She said something like, "Are you going too, Daddy?" or something like that.
Yeah. So we got a lot of that. And that's what I liked about this episode is there were so many short, small little scenes that were impactful. I thought that were good and compacted, but also impactful. Yeah.
And in that scene, not to skip out on that scene with Chief and Keiko and Molly, Keiko gets a lot of flack from the Star Trek fans. She gets a lot of flack as like an annoying character. But she said a line that I think all of us were kind of thinking a little bit, and all of us would say in her shoes when O'Brien was like, "Hey, I gotta go," and she's like something like, "Are you sure?" And he says, "Well, if we leave, then they're gonna take Bajor back, or they're gonna take the station." And she says, "They're gonna have the whole Gamma Quadrant for all I care." she's like, what do I care about Bajor, man? Like, you're risking your life. They can have the whole quadrant. I'm just trying to keep my family together.
Yeah. Which is, this is the sacrifice that they're making. And I guess that's probably why the fans don't like her attitude is, not really that supportive. But she's right in a sense, she's right in a way. That's what matters to her,
Yeah.
And they don't know what they're getting into when they stay behind. I think that was the big risk. I mean, there were only like 20, 30 guys that showed up at the station, right? To commandeer it, to take over. And it was like, all right,
Pretty
they said,
manageable.
yeah, pretty manageable. It wasn't like Sosa when he went to kill Scarface. He sent more guys to get Scarface than they sent to take over DS9. But yeah, it was like 20, 30 people, and it wasn't like a resistance so big where they would be fearful of it. I could imagine if there was 100, 200 guys in there running and storming the ship, they would say, all right, let's get out of here. But it was pretty fair odds as far as that was concerned.
I just thought of in the goodbye scene with you and Avery as well, because there are like 4 or 5 goodbye scenes, which I thought was maybe 1 or 2 too many, but I wouldn't know which one to take out because they were all kind of important. But Ben Sisko, your dad, hands you a letter and says, here's a letter, don't open it or something like that, whatever it was. So obviously it's like a letter to you in case something happens, I guess, right? But we never got any kind of closure on that. I mean, maybe in the next episode they'll pick up and you'll say, here's your letter back or something like that. I don't know.
Well, that's what I wanted to do in this podcast. I wanted to read the letter and, on air.
Oh, great. You still have it. Let's hear it.
Yeah, hold on a second. Here it is.
Okay, here we go.
Dear Jake, you're the best. Love, Dad. There it is.
Oh, that's
a very short letter.
Well, hang on. Was it in cursive or print, or did he type it out?
This one is written on the back of a Marshall's receipt. So,
so it was right after school shopping for you.
It was right after school shopping. Yeah, he took me shopping. We went to Old Navy and then went to Marshall's. Then he wrote that letter on the back of the receipt. It was pretty crazy.
That is beautiful. Hang on to that. Hang on to it, man.
No, it's funny because I looked at that thing and I couldn't remember the moment itself when it happened. But it didn't look like a piece of paper, right? It looked like some electronic. Didn't it look like an electronic?
Maybe like a little pad or something like. How they hand around pads about stuff like none of the computers are connected to each other.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, I emailed you a letter. Check it out. He's like, here's my iPad with just open it and there's a README on it. So you just read
yeah. Or it was what do they call those little drives that they put in?
Yeah, flash drive.
Flash drive. It was a flash drive. It was like, yeah, here. It's a flash drive. It's a letter I wrote for you.
I think I mentioned this once before, but a long time ago, my very first flash drive. It's a little orange thumb drive. And I wanted to, when you plug it in, it asks you for like a name. Otherwise, it's just called, blank or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to give it a name, but I wanted to be able to like write on the tiny little flash drive. So I needed a small name for something orange, and I called it Nog. And my very first flash drive was called Nog. I could probably find it in my desk somewhere, and I never got the chance to tell Aron that because I only remembered it like a couple months ago. I was like, oh shit, I should tell him that my first flash drive, like he affected me enough 15 years ago or whatever it was, that my first flash drive I called Nog. And then I realized yesterday that my external hard drive that I put a lot of good stuff in, I called it Deep Space Nine because it's like a little, it's got, if there's little Nog and big Deep Space Nine. And
that's great.
Yeah,
that's great. No, I'm sure he'd be happy to hear that. That's a little giggle right there.
It's not as good as his soccer coach or his baseball coach story being Coach Sisko. But
oh yeah, no, not as good as that, but still something. But no, one of the other things that I liked was the Ferengi interaction between Rom and Quark. I liked that little interaction. It kind of plays off of Quark and Rom's usual banter between each other. But I liked when they said that he escaped on with the Dabo girls. He sold his brother's ticket.
I was wondering, I was like, I wonder if that's going to be Lita. Like if, it doesn't show it obviously, but I wonder if I'm supposed to think, hey, maybe that's Lita,
Yeah, I didn't think of that. Yeah. That's
I don't remember when she comes in.
Maybe she's coming in soon. Maybe that's like her entrance into it. Um, one other thing that I thought was cool, I liked the Dax and Kira scenes when they're hot wiring the old Bajoran's ship.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah, that was
that
like a
felt
dirty
like a little Star Warsy to me in some ways, actually, which was interesting.
because they were pod racing. Yeah.
Was it? Is that why?
But it was like that. You're right. Yeah.
I don't know what it was. Maybe it was the design of the ship itself, or the way it was filmed. I don't know, but it just felt like a little Star Warsy. Like I felt like I transitioned into Star Wars during that small moment when they were on that ship.
And the rust colors and all that.
Yeah.
Are you going to watch The Mandalorian, by the way? That's like a new Star Wars series.
Yeah, no, I don't know about it. I don't know. We'll see. I'll see if it's catches the buzz before I go take a look at it.
We're hearing really good things about it. Like they're saying it's the most Star Wars thing since 1983, since Return of the Jedi. So something to check out.
Yeah, I hope so. I'm not a big fan of a lot of the other newer stuff.
Mm.
I mean, and I was a big fan of the original 3 trilogy. And then afterwards, the new makes. I think they lost me with Jar Jar Binks. That's when I stopped watching.
A lot of people got a little turned off by Jar Jar.
Yeah, Jar Jar was a bad move.
Yeah.
But no, you know what was funny was when Sisko is choking out Quark in Ops when he finds out that he was selling these seats.
Oh yeah.
And then he sees Sisko puts his arms around his neck, is literally choking him out, which I thought was hilarious.
He had it coming.
He had it coming. He had it coming. And then he said something like, "I think I might have overbooked," you know, which was great. I mean, there was another line that he said something about what it's standard protocol for Ferengi to like do this.
And then his own brother overbooked him out.
Right, exactly.
There was also one last little thing in that beginning part where you know, Odo and Quark have like that little I'll miss you, Quark, harumph, you know. And Quark says, "Take care of yourself." Like it was the first time. See, the beginning of the second season is kind of like a payoff for the first season. Like, you know, Jake and Nog, they have that earned moment, you know, where the writers earned that moment. And Quark and Odo, I think it might be the first time where they actually showed a little bit of fondness for each other, where they're just kind of like, well, I'll miss you, you know, or Odo says it jokingly and Quark says, take care of yourself. And it's the first time that it shows like they're kind of frenemies, mostly enemies, but they still, you know, they're still pals.
Yeah, they reminded us of that again, and you know, it was a cute little moment in the main ops when they were doing that exchange.
Hey, real quick, we got to take our break, but finish up that in just a second, and we'll also talk about French onion soup and baseballs, and I also want to read a piece of advice somebody gave you for Days of Our Lives. So stay tuned for that. We'll be right back on the 7th.
All right.